My name was Ahmed. I was a prosecutor in New York, well-respected and meticulously trained. My life revolved around the law, authority, and a faith I believed would guide my every action. But deep down, an unsettling emptiness clawed at my soul. Day after day, I walked into a courtroom filled with tension, where justice seemed an elusive specter, and faith felt like a brittle facade. I was proud of who I was, until one harrowing moment unshackled a truth I dared not to face. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mere slip. It was a collapse, both emotional and spiritual. As I sat among gavel strikes and whispered pleas for justice, my spirit hollowed out within, revealing cracks in my unwavering adherence to a belief that no longer comforted me. Dreams haunted me, visions of corruption and hypocrisy that left me questioning everything I held dear. Was the religion that had guided my life a tool of control, rather than a bridge to the divine? Then came that fateful day. I was struck down during a heated trial, and in that moment of darkness, I slipped into something unimaginable. An experience many fear but few truly comprehend. In a realm cloaked in despair, I encountered him, Jesus. He called my name, piercing through the shadows that had chained me to doubt. With each word, he illuminated the harsh truths I was blind to, revealing a battle much greater than any case I had ever prosecuted. When I awakened, the world around me grew cold. My family viewed me as a traitor, my colleagues turned their backs on me, and the loneliness that washed over me was suffocating. Yet in secret, I yearned for the truth I glimpsed in that otherworldly encounter. It beckoned me to explore Christianity, leading me into a community that thrived on hope, love, and liberation. Everything I had longed for but never found. In this video, I will share how my journey from darkness to light not only changed my perspective on faith, but revealed the urgent need to confront the injustices we see around us, both in our lives and in society. This message is not just for me, it's for everyone searching for a deeper truth. Before we delve into the story, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? And what time is it there? Your voice matters. If you too love Jesus and seek the profound truth that lies beyond the veil, subscribe to Truth from Beyond so you won't miss the powerful revelations ahead. Together, we can navigate this spiritual journey and break free from the chains that bind us. As I sat in the bustling New York courtroom, surrounded by the echoes of legal jargon and the palpable tension in the air, I felt the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders. My name is Fareed Hassan, and I've dedicated my life to the law, believing fervently in justice and due process. Yet, as a prosecutor, I often found myself grappling with the stark realization that the very institutions I was sworn to uphold seemed to undermine the more profound, humane aspects of our society. With each case I reviewed, I sensed a growing disillusionment, a division between the law and the human beings it was meant to protect. On this particular day, while preparing for a high-stakes trial, I was enveloped by an unsettling awareness. The defendant, a young man accused of a crime that seemed minor in the grand scheme of things, was more than just a file on my desk. He was a reflection of the struggles faced by many, caught in a system that prioritized punishment over understanding. I felt an urgent need to speak on his behalf, yet doubt crept in. Was I merely a cog in a machine that perpetuated the very deception I despised? My heart raced, and in that moment of crisis I closed my eyes, seeking solace in thought. Suddenly, I found myself slipping away into a profound experience that felt both surreal and life-altering. I was in a luminous space, surrounded by warmth and peace. It was as if I had stepped out of reality, suspended in time. In that ethereal moment, I encountered Jesus, an embodiment of love and compassion. As he looked at me, I felt the weight of my doubts dissolve. "Fareed," he spoke, and his voice resonated deep within my soul. "You're caught in a spiritual war. It's time for you to awaken to the truth." As Jesus shared his revelations, I was shown a tapestry of interconnectedness that bound humanity together. He illuminated the hidden agenda of the elites, how they exploited fear, sowing division among us to maintain their grip on power. I saw the currents of deception that flowed through our society, political machinations, societal injustices, and the strife that keeps people trapped in the cycle of despair. The insights flooded my consciousness, and I understood that this wasn't just about law, it was about life, about the truth that transcends our current realities. It was a wake-up call, compelling me to act, to use my position not just as a prosecutor, but as a vessel of change. With every revelation came an urgent warning. The battle for our souls is ongoing, and the oppression isn't solely legal, it's deeply spiritual. The enormity of this knowledge began to settle in. I realized that if I didn't find the courage to confront the systemic flaws within the justice system that I had become part of, my role would only serve to perpetuate the very problems I had once stood against. The idea of becoming an advocate for those silenced by an unforgiving system ignited a sense of purpose within me that had been dormant for far too long. Suddenly, I felt myself returning to the present, thrust back into the chaos of the courtroom, my heart pounding in my chest. The world I left behind felt more tangible now, and I knew that the truths I had witnessed could no longer be ignored. I sat up straight, the conviction coursing through my veins. I was in the midst of a spiritual awakening, and it was time to share these revelations that justice demands more than adherence to the law. It requires compassion and understanding. I understood then that my journey had just begun, and the fight for truth would not come without its challenges. But with Jesus guiding me, I felt renewed strength to rise against the currents of deception that sought to drown us all. As I sat at my desk, reviewing yet another case file in the heart of New York City, I felt the weight of my responsibilities pressing down on me. My name is Ahmed Al-Farsi, a 38-year-old public prosecutor respected within my community. The serious demeanor I've built over the years has often masked an emotional void that's disrupted my inner peace. Day in and day out, I delve into the intricacies of the law, seeking justice for those caught in its web. Yet beneath that exterior, something has been quietly gnawing at me, a fear so profound that it has kept me from questioning my faith and beliefs. One day, while preparing for a high-profile trial that had stirred tensions throughout the community, I found my mind drifting. The arguments surrounding the case became background noise, and I felt a disorienting emptiness take hold. The deeper I dug into the case, the politics involved, the social implications, the more I was confronted with a harsh reality. The legal system, once a pillar of justice in my eyes, seemed tainted by a hidden agenda, one that perpetuated the struggles and divisions within our society. I realized that this wasn't just about law. It was a reflection of a greater spiritual war, one I had ignored for far too long. As I closed my eyes for a moment of clarity, I slipped away from the constraints of the courtroom and was drawn into a realm of light. In that split second, I found myself in a vast, ethereal space, feeling like I was suspended between worlds. There, I encountered Jesus. His presence was mesmerizing, radiant, and filled with compassion. As he looked into my soul, I felt stripped bare, my doubts and fears laid out in stark clarity. Ahmed, he said, and with those words, a profound revelation enveloped me. I was confronted with the truth that the deception woven throughout society was designed by those elite few who sought to control us, to keep us divided. In the light of that revelation, I witnessed the interconnectedness of all humanity, how every deception has bred division, leading us to misunderstand one another and, ultimately, ourselves. I saw how many of us remain trapped within our beliefs, shackled by a fear of questioning what we've been taught. It became glaringly clear that the spiritual awakening I had long craved was not just for me. It was a collective journey that could ignite a transformative movement. Those who had come before me, who had sought awakening from oppression, were stepping forward now, urging me to join them in breaking the silence that binds us. But as I attempted to absorb these truths, the weight of my reality crashed down. I realized that each day I remained silent was a day I added to the burden of those still ensnared in fear and ignorance. What would my colleagues think if they knew? What about my family? As I started to comprehend the enormity of this spiritual war, the fear of isolation gripped me with chilling intensity. Would they dismiss me as a traitor? Or worse, as someone lost to the very deception I sought to expose? I felt the urgency of the truth pressing against the confines of my heart, a call to action that I could no longer ignore. Awakening isn't merely an internal journey. It's a commitment to confront the societal fractures that threaten our collective spirit. As I returned to the courtroom, I knew that I stood at the precipice of change. My voice needed to rise above the cacophony of doubt and fear, to become a beacon of hope for those still held captive by the lies spun around them. I was ready to step forward and share this encounter, to reclaim a narrative of truth that would echo through the hearts of others yearning for liberation. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but as I mulled over the path before me, I understood one thing. I could no longer remain in the shadows. The time had come to boldly face the world with the truth of my awakening. Every morning, I would kneel in prayer, my mind racing with doubts that had begun to creep into my spiritual life. I'm Ahmed, a public prosecutor in New York, and while I've dedicated myself to the pursuit of justice, I've felt an unsettling disconnection from my faith. The rituals of prayer, once a source of solace, became increasingly burdened by the weight of my unresolved questions. I found myself questioning not only my beliefs, but the role that religion played in society, the potential of faith as a control mechanism wielded by those in power. As I reflected on the injustices I witnessed in the courtroom, particularly in cases where the law felt more like a tool of oppression than a protector of rights, my heart ached. I watched as people who were struggling with circumstances beyond their control became victims of a system that favored the elite, a system that sometimes seemed to thrive on their suffering. It was hard to reconcile the love of God with the harsh realities faced by those I encountered daily. These contradictions haunted me, whispering that perhaps the teachings I had followed were more about maintaining order than guiding souls toward liberation. In an attempt to find answers, I began immersing myself more deeply in my prayers. I sought comfort in the familiar words and phrases, but my mind would wander back to the people I met each day. Individuals crushed by the weight of their circumstances, pinned down not just by legal penalties, but by a hidden agenda that seemed to dictate their lives. The more I prayed for clarity, the more I felt the heavy blanket of doubt suffocating me. Where was the truth in all this? Where was Jesus in the lives of those pushing through dark waters? Then, in what felt like a pivotal moment during one of these prayers, I had an encounter that would forever change my outlook. I felt a presence enveloping me, lifting me out of the turmoil of my thoughts and fears. Suddenly there was Jesus, radiating light and warmth. His gaze pierced through the layers of doubt I had carefully constructed around my heart. "Ahmed." He spoke softly, yet with an authority that resonated deep within my spirit. "You're caught in a spiritual war, and your doubts are part of a deeper deception meant to enslave you." As he spoke, revelations began flooding my mind. I was shown the interconnectedness of all humanity, the struggles, the pain, and how each individual suffering played into the larger tapestry of our world. The spiritual war wasn't just about beliefs. It was a battle for our very souls, waged by those in power who use divisions to maintain control. I felt the urgency of this message. Truth must rise above the deception that plagues our societies. In that moment, I realized the role I needed to play. I had to awaken others, to help them see beyond the veils that blinded them. But as the weight of this responsibility settled on my shoulders, I also felt a cold grip of fear. What will happen to me, to those I love, if I dare to defy the norms that have held society together for so long? The urgency grew, pushing me to face the battles ahead, but the uncertainty remained, making me wonder if I could truly transform my convictions into action and stand against the oppressive systems around me. The moment I collapsed during that critical court session is etched in my mind. The bustling courtroom fell silent as I felt the world around me fade into darkness. My name is Ahmed Al-Farsi, and I had spent years navigating the complexities of the law, fervently believing in justice. Yet, as I lay on the cold floor, a sense of despair washed over me, mingling with the exhaustion of upholding ideals that often felt more like illusions than truths. The emotional burden I carried had grown unbearable, but I had no idea that this moment of physical collapse would thrust me into a life-altering experience. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in a surreal, dark, and dusty environment. It felt as if I had been transported into a forgotten realm, a liminal space that echoed the confusion I felt in my own heart. In that suffocating silence, I felt a presence, a warm, inviting light that flickered at the edge of my awareness. As the light drew nearer, I heard a voice calling my name, Ahmed. It was Jesus, and his voice reverberated not just in my ears, but in my very soul. In that instant, the weight of my doubts and fears started to lift, replaced by an overwhelming sense of love and understanding. As the light enveloped me, the darkness began to recede, revealing the harsh truths I had been blind to. Jesus confronted me not only with his love, but with the hypocrisy I had witnessed, the systems designed to distract and disempower us. I was shown the hidden agendas that manipulated our lives and shaped our perceptions, keeping us shackled to societal norms built on deception. It hit me like a tidal wave. The spiritual war isn't just a battle for beliefs. It's a fight for freedom from these lies that bind us. The political landscape mirrored this struggle, where the elite maneuvered to maintain control, creating divisions among communities and families. Each revelation struck like a bell within my consciousness, ringing out the call for awakening. I witnessed how technology, which we often embraced as a tool for advancement, was wielded as a weapon of distraction, furthering the agendas of those in power. The dehumanization that ran rampant in our justice system, the way truth was manipulated, these were battles that I had contributed to, knowingly or unknowingly. The realization that I had been a part of a system that oppressed rather than liberated filled me with a deep sense of urgency. I was being called to change not just my life, but the lives of others still caught in this web of deception. As the light grew brighter, I felt empowered, ready to emerge from the darkness that had clouded my understanding. But there was a daunting weight of responsibility that came with this awakening. If I were to carry this truth back into the world, I knew I would face resistance, not only from the elite, but from those who wished to maintain the status quo. The fear of backlash against my beliefs loomed ominously, especially from my community and family, who might not accept my new understanding of faith and justice. Just as I began to comprehend the scope of my revelations, I felt the pull back into my body. The warmth faded, and the darkness of the hospital room enveloped me once more. I opened my eyes to the sterile surroundings, but I was forever changed. The life I once lived felt distant, and with every heartbeat, I became aware of the mission ahead. The fight for truth was not merely personal. It was a call to liberate those still entangled in the deceptions of the world. I realized then that my voice, my testimony, could spark an awakening in others. With renewed determination, I steeled myself for the journey to come, embracing the call to action despite the risk that awaited me. When I regained consciousness in the hospital room, the realities of my new existence hit me like a tidal wave. My name is Ahmed Al-Farsi, and I had just experienced what I can only describe as a profound awakening. The visions of Jesus, the light, and the revelations had altered the very fabric of my being. Yet, as my senses returned and I became aware of my surroundings, I was immediately met with skepticism from the people I loved most, my family. The conversations that followed were filled with tension and disbelief. To them, I was a stranger, a traitor to the faith that had defined our lives for generations. I sat in that hospital bed, grappling with feelings of isolation. My parents' voices echoed in my mind, questioning my choices, shaking their heads in disappointment. They saw my newfound beliefs not as a blessing but as a betrayal. My heart sank each time I recalled their expressions, hurt, confused, and angry. It was as if I had shattered the delicate balance of our familial ties, and the guilt crushed me like a heavy stone. How could I explain the truth I had encountered while still honoring the love we shared? The weight of potential loss loomed over me, threatening to swallow the hope I had felt just moments before. The stark difference between my experience and their reality became painfully evident. I had been shown the depth of the spiritual war we face, the hidden agenda of the elite manipulating our lives and keeping us ensnared in deception. I now understood that my previous beliefs had acted as blinders, preventing me from seeing these systemic injustices and the ways in which the truth had been obscured. I wanted so desperately to share these revelations with my family, to help them break free from the chains that bound them, but the fear of their rejection silenced my voice. In the solitude of my thoughts, I found myself praying for strength. I sought guidance from Jesus, asking for the wisdom to bridge this growing chasm between my past and my present. Each prayer became a plea, a desperate attempt to find a way to reconcile my love for my family with my commitment to the truth I had discovered. I felt the pull of urgency. The world outside my hospital room echoed with the cries of those still caught in the system, a system that perpetuated division and strife. I realized that I was no longer just living for myself. I had become part of a larger narrative, one that mattered for the future of many. As days turned into weeks, I began to form connections with others who understood and accepted my journey. In the recovery room, I faced my fears and shared my story with those who could relate. Their encouragement ignited a flame within me, proving that even among chaos there are pockets of understanding and acceptance. Yet, I was always conscious of the fact that my awakening was uniquely mine. What if not everyone found the same path to truth? What if my family remained steadfast in their views, unwilling or unable to see the awakening that had reshaped my reality? These fears shadowed my newfound hope, challenging me to confront them head-on. In those sacred moments of reflection and prayer, I understood that my journey was not just about me. It was about leading others toward their own revelations. The spiritual awakening I felt would serve as a catalyst for change, illuminating paths for those who were still navigating their way through the darkness. The truth is often unsettling, but it offers freedom. Freedom from fear, from deception, and from the burdens we carry in silence. And as I equipped myself to face the world anew, I felt ready to embrace the mission ahead. A mission that would require not just courage, but a heart willing to endure the pain of potential loss for the sake of awakening the truth. In the quiet moments of the night, I began to explore the Bible, a book both foreign and familiar. My name is Ahmed, a prosecutor in New York, but to my surprise, diving into its pages opened a door I never knew existed. Each verse felt energizing, offering a perspective I was desperate for, amidst the spiritual war that raged within me. With every reading, I connected to the stories of those who had faced oppression yet found peace in Jesus. I longed for that same peace, knowing that it could bridge the chasm that seemed to be widening between my past and the path I felt called to follow. Secretly, I sought out others who had experienced the profound awakening I was beginning to understand. Online groups became a refuge where I could share and listen without fear of judgment. In those safe circles, I found camaraderie among people who also navigated the delicate balance of faith and identity, struggling like me against the pressures of their own cultures. Each encounter in those virtual discussions resonated deeply, as we spoke of the hidden agendas that manipulate our realities, the elite who thrive on fear and division. The more I connected, the clearer it became. The truth was not only unifying but liberating, providing a solace I had yearned for and thought I might never find. Yet even in this newfound community, the fear of losing my cultural identity loomed over me. Every day felt like I was walking a tightrope, torn between the faith that I had been raised in and the awakening that pulled at my heart. I often found myself questioning whether embracing Jesus meant abandoning my roots. Would my family see my exploration as a betrayal? The thought turned my stomach. The comfort of tradition felt ever present, tempting me to retreat into the safety of my upbringing. But deep down, I understood that seeking the truth required courage, the kind that comes from confronting the uncomfortable realities of both faith and society. One night, as I sat in prayer, I felt the warmth flood my soul, a profound reassurance that I was not alone in this journey. I sensed Jesus beside me, offering a gentle nudge toward the path laid out before me. His presence reminded me that the spiritual war was not just mine, but a collective fight for liberation against the forces that would seek to keep us in the shadows. I could feel his love washing away the shame I held, the fear of judgment that stifled my voice. Each moment of connection with him compelled me forward, encouraging me to break free from the confines of societal expectations and to boldly embrace my new identity. As these realizations washed over me, I experienced an awakening. The revelation that spiritual freedom lies in the embrace of truth resonated deeply within me. I wanted to stand up and share this awakening, to confront the silent oppression that lurked within my own culture. I understood that the very act of pursuing this truth could inspire others who felt similarly trapped, offering them hope and a light in their darkest moments. Yet I was acutely aware of the risks involved. The potential backlash was real. The thought of being cast out, of losing the bonds that mattered to me, sent tremors through my resolve. But I knew I had to take that leap of faith. My journey would echo into the lives of others, and I could not ignore the call that was urging me to rise above my fears. In the aftermath of my near-death experience, as I lay in the hospital room surrounded by beeping machines and sterile walls, I was struck by a profound realization. My encounter with Jesus had not simply been a moment of clarity, but a divine calling, the kind of calling that demanded action. I could no longer sit on the sidelines, comfortably wrapped in my role as a prosecutor, while the world outside suffered under the weight of injustice and oppression. I knew that I had been chosen to bear witness to a greater truth, one that transcended legal statutes and societal norms. This spiritual war was unfolding all around us, and I felt compelled to take a stand. I began to understand that my mission wasn't merely about sharing the revelation I had experienced. It was about challenging the injustices I had witnessed in the courtroom. The hidden agendas of the elite lurked behind every case, manipulating outcomes to maintain control and ensure that the vulnerable remained oppressed. During my years in the legal field, I had witnessed firsthand the ways in which the system could dehumanize individuals, stripping them of their dignity in favor of upholding a flawed narrative. This was not merely a problem confined to my profession. It reflected a much broader societal deception that needed to be addressed. Embarking on this mission filled me with both fear and urgency. I realized that in order to share the truth I had found in Jesus, I would need to confront powerful forces that sought to keep that truth buried. Advocating for change meant risking my own safety, and the thought of losing my career, my community, or even my family loomed heavy in my mind. Yet each time I prayed, I felt a sense of peace wash over me, a reminder that this spiritual awakening was worth every sacrifice. Jesus had faced persecution for the truth. He preached, so who was I to shy away from my own battles? As I began to speak out, I found solace and strength among those who shared similar experiences. Online communities formed around our shared struggles, each conversation ripe with stories of liberation and transformation. I connected with fellow believers who had also felt the sting of betrayal from those they once trusted. The more I interacted with them, the more I realized that the awakening wasn't just an individual journey. It was a collective movement. We were all entwined in this spiritual war, a struggle against the systems that divided us and obscured our understanding of one another. Emboldened by my newfound community, I understood that I was not just sharing a personal testimony. I was igniting a fire of hope for those still ensnared in fear. Each step I took to spread this message felt monumental, a deliberate opening of the floodgates to the truth. I wanted others to know that spiritual freedom was within their reach, that they could confront the hidden agendas that had dictated their beliefs for too long. As I prepared to leave the safety of my past behind, I felt the weight of responsibility settle onto my shoulders. The journey ahead would be fraught with trials, but with every ounce of courage drawn from my faith, I felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. The call to awaken others was not just a mission, it was my destiny. In the heart of New York City, I stood at a crossroads in my life, and the weight of my decisions pressed heavily on my shoulders. My name is Ahmed Al-Farsi, a prosecutor deeply entrenched in the legal system yet increasingly aware of the deception woven throughout our society. My journey began innocently enough, driven by a desire to seek justice, but it soon turned into a spiritual war that would challenge everything I had come to believe. It started with a voice, one that I could not ignore, calling me to confront the truths hidden behind the curtains of our everyday reality. As I reviewed cases, my mind became a battleground filled with questions that would not relent. I saw individuals caught in the crosshairs of a system that often failed them, and I began to feel the emotional toll it took on my soul. Each time I upheld the law, I felt a piece of me fade away. I often questioned whether my role contributed to the larger hidden agenda of the elite, those who controlled the very narratives that shaped our world. The more I delved into these troubling thoughts, the more I sensed a looming darkness, one that heightened my tension and left me yearning for clarity. It all came to a head during a particularly taxing day when I collapsed, not just physically, but spiritually. As I lay in that moment of vulnerability, a profound near-death experience washed over me. Suddenly, I found myself enveloped in a warm, radiant light, where I came face to face with Jesus. His gaze pierced through my doubts and fears, infusing my soul with an overwhelming sense of love and understanding. "Ahmed," he said, each syllable echoing through the chamber of my heart, "you are part of a spiritual war, and now it's time to embrace the truth." In that divine moment, a cascade of revelations unfolded. I was shown the intricate web of deception that kept individuals shackled to hopelessness. I witnessed the systemic manipulation perpetrated by the elite, how they instilled fear and division in society to maintain control. I saw the impact of political agendas that prioritized power over people, and how those hidden agendas often manifested in the lives of ordinary individuals, leading to suffering that felt insurmountable. The revelation was staggering. I realized that I had been living a life bound by societal expectations, and this oppressive atmosphere stifled my spiritual awakening. Awakening took on a new meaning for me. I understood that to truly embrace the call of Jesus meant breaking free from the chains that held both me and others captive. I felt an overwhelming burden to share this revelation, to help those marginalized individuals I had seen struggling in the courtroom and to nurture hope in their hearts. Yet, I knew the risk involved. The safety of my past life was enticing, but I was ready to change my name, my location, and my identity to fully commit myself to this greater purpose. Despite the lingering fear of losing everything familiar, I recognized that the truth couldn't be silenced. It needed to be spoken no matter the consequences, and I was determined to be the voice that called others to awakening. Years have flowed since I turned my back on the life I once knew, and today I find myself living in a new community where I've committed to sharing the revelations I experienced during that fateful moment with Jesus. My name is Ahmed Al-Farsi, and while embracing my mission has brought me joy, it has also come with the ache of separation from my family and my cultural roots. Yet, as I witness the profound impact my testimony has had on the lives of so many, I feel that every sacrifice made in pursuit of truth and awakening is worth it. Each day I engage deeply with individuals seeking solace from the oppressive systems that once held them captive. I listen to their stories, filled with pain and fear, and as I share my own journey of spiritual awakening, I can see the flicker of hope ignite in their eyes. The struggles they face are all too familiar to me. The feeling of being trapped by societal expectations, the weight of traditions that stifle individuality, and the gnawing fear of rejection. In those moments, I remind them of the spiritual war we're all engaged in, and how embracing the truth can lead to the liberation they so desperately seek. Every conversation is a reminder of the connectedness of our struggles, revealing how the hidden agendas of the elite manipulate our realities and foster division. My experience has taught me that the journey toward truth isn't simply personal, it's a collective awakening in the face of a deception that binds us. I recount the moments when Jesus opened my heart and mind to the realities of this world, how the illusion of control has masked the beauty of faith and empathy that should be our guiding lights. And yet, amidst this fulfilling mission, I often grapple with the hope of reconciling with my family. I dream of sharing my journey with them, of inviting them into this new understanding that transcends cultural bounds. The fear of losing my connections weighs heavily on my mind, but I refuse to allow the past to dictate my future. Each encounter I have with someone who feels lost solidifies my belief that the truth I've embraced can offer healing not just for individuals, but for families torn apart by misunderstanding and fear. I know that every story shared, every heart touched, brings us one step closer to a broader understanding and awakening. The urgency grows stronger with each passing day. I feel the call of Jesus guiding me, compelling me to push forward even in the face of uncertainty. I stand firm in my commitment to challenge the deceptive narratives surrounding us, knowing that spiritual freedom begins when we confront those hidden agendas. As I pour my heart and soul into this mission, I hold on to the hope that one day, the light of truth will illuminate paths back for families like mine, reuniting us in love and understanding. In the routine of my life as a prosecutor in New York, I never expected a moment of profound awakening amidst the chaos of the legal system. My name is Ahmed Al-Farsi. Every day, I arrived at the courthouse believing in the ideal of justice, fueled by the desire to uphold the law and serve my community. Yet beneath the surface of my professional demeanor lay a growing sense of discontent, a nagging feeling that something fundamental was amiss. As I sat reviewing a particularly complex case, my mind was besieged by doubts about the very system I had devoted my life to. It was a moment that would lead to an unexpected revelation, one that would open my eyes to the hidden agenda lurking behind the guise of justice. The collapse came without warning. One minute I was immersed in legal texts, and the next, the room around me began to darken. My breathing quickened as the walls felt like they were closing in. I could almost hear the whispers of those trapped within the system, their stories of injustice echoing in my mind. Then, just as the darkness threatened to swallow me whole, I found myself thrust into a different realm, a tranquil, luminous space that felt both foreign and familiar at the same time. I was enveloped in a soft glow, the kind that brought with it a comforting warmth that seemed to caress my spirit. In that powerful moment, Jesus appeared before me, radiant and filled with love. His presence was overwhelming. I felt as if every fear, every doubt, melted away in the light of his gaze. He spoke my name, and I could feel an indescribable connection pulling me closer to him. "Ahmed," he said, "you are caught in a spiritual war, a battle between light and darkness." It was then that the layers of deception began to peel away, revealing not only the manipulation that tainted my understanding of justice, but also the deeper truths of our world. I was shown how the elite exploited these very systems, their hidden agendas ensuring that the masses remained divided, fearful, and oblivious to the real battles being fought. The revelation did not shy away from discomfort. I was confronted with the way technology and information have been weaponized, reshaping beliefs and molding perceptions in a manner that prioritizes control over compassion. The systemic injustices I witnessed daily were not random occurrences. They were part of a larger strategy to keep us ensnared in ignorance and misery. I realized that I had been part of this cycle, serving a role that limited my ability to see the truth. Yet Jesus illuminated the path toward awakening, showing me that genuine spirituality cannot coexist with the chains of tradition, when those traditions blind us to the reality of our shared humanity. As I felt myself drawn back to the physical world, I understood that my encounter with Jesus was more than a personal experience. It was a mandate to speak out against the oppression that so many endure. I could not, in good conscience, return to my life as it was before. I knew the risk involved in breaking the silence that binds us, how challenging the status quo could lead to backlash from those who benefit from the existing power structures. But in that moment of clarity, I felt the weight of responsibility settle upon me. I had to rise against the tide of deception and share the truth I had uncovered, no matter the personal costs. Now, as I prepared to step back into my reality, I felt the tension within me shift from fear to determination. I would embrace a new identity, one that allowed me to channel my experiences into something powerful and transformative for others. I felt compelled to cross the threshold from merely existing to truly living, an awakening to the boundless possibilities that awaited. With Jesus as my guide, the battle lines were drawn not just within me, but in the lives of all those yearning for truth. The journey ahead would be challenging, but with each step, I would strive to illuminate the path for those still lost in darkness. As I sit here now, reflecting on the tumultuous journey I've traversed, I realize that my awakening isn't just a personal story. It's a vital thread in the fabric of a much larger narrative, a narrative pulsating with urgency and the call for change. My name is Ahmed Al-Farsi, and I am both a witness and a participant in this crucial spiritual war that each one of us is enduring. Can you feel it? The deep unrest that whispers to all of us, urging us to look beyond the surface of our lives? We are not merely spectators in this existence. We are players in a divine drama, each of us potent with the ability to alter the course of our shared journey. Every day, the struggles I encountered as a prosecutor revealed a haunting truth. The system is often rigged, a deception that thrives on division and fear. But I discovered something even more staggering. Jesus invited me to break free from these chains, to embrace a truth that transcends the lies of our world. So I ask you, have you ever felt a similar awakening? A moment that reshaped everything you thought you knew? What if each of us could recognize our roles in this cosmic battle, challenging the narratives that divide us and embracing the interconnectedness of our souls? I urge you to reflect on this. Your experiences are essential. Share them in the comments below. Let's cultivate a community of truth seekers. If my story resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and activate notifications. Engaging with our content is not just about following a channel. It's about joining a movement dedicated to unveiling the hidden agendas influencing our lives. We need each other in this journey of awakening, and I assure you, the revelations that await will only deepen your understanding of the spiritual battles we face. In our next video, prepare to meet another courageous soul whose journey mirrors the eternal call of Jesus, one who discovered profound truth within the shadows of despair. Together, we can illuminate the darkness that surrounds us. I'm Ahmed, and it's been a privilege to share this moment with you. Remember, no truth is insignificant. In our shared reality, every voice counts. Every experience matters. Stand strong, and let's uncover the path ahead together.